Ta 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 ta.
Yeah.
Wait,
I didn't say anything.
No, it's okay.
You're not going to mute my mic?
No, the stream is starting soon. Do I need to mute the mics?
I want a sound test. You got a sound check. How do I sound? Do I sound pretty? Do I sound manly? Hell yeah, I do.
One person on this stream right now watching it going, the fuck am I watching? Getting this very explicit, like, 1 minute before everything starts rolling, because we're going to start like 9 minutes early because whatever BS. Alright. Hey, Audacity's working off. Oh my god, we're just firing on all cylinders right here. I know you guys can't see us, but just to let you know, everything's firing on all cylinders. Once we figured out the mics weren't plugged in, we figured everything out.
Wouldn't be wrong button without miscellaneous audio.
Without
issues, right?
some sort of technical difficulties, yeah, it's jeez, this is gonna be a day.
Is it gonna be a day?
It is. Oh, it's gonna be an evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. And you know, we're gonna be 3, 2, 1. Transition. Look at that. Look at that sign. Look at this setup. It's almost like it's semi-professional, except for the fact that that's still blown out. That light's too bright. I need to figure out how I'm gonna do this. I need a better camera.
But we should really do, like, you should have me down here for a nice little lighting design. I can make it look pretty. Let me do it.
So I was gonna get track lighting in here. If I did anything.
Track lighting?
Yeah.
Like,
that's the ones where, like, it goes on the tracks and then it can shine down the, like, you get, it's like, see those lights over there?
Oh, that's involved. Oh.
No, you can just get them up there. I could run the cable down the other side and just plug it in.
Huh.
So when we needed it. But Mrs. Play is like, we're not doing that shit. I'm like, but then how are we supposed to light up? And she goes, I don't care how you're gonna do it. You're not doing it that way. So
see, just let me have an afternoon down here, and I'll figure out something pretty. Gotta get some nice stage makeup going.
I think the biggest thing is gonna be fixing that.
Why don't we just shoot on an iPhone?
Because that doesn't shoot right to the computer.
I mean, it can.
Can it?
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I think I can make it work.
Okay, I have to get an iPhone stand and a better iPhone. Oh, do you have an iPhone now?
I've had an iPhone.
That's right, because we share our location.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can see where I am at all times.
Well, yeah, because somebody needs to let me know if they get home safe or not.
Which I did not.
How do I know you're not, accidentally DMing a 16-year-old something that could be considered racy and getting us kicked off of Twitch and then coming back like, hey, the internal team said it wasn't
my private
sexual.
messages with Wacky are none of your business.
Okay, that sounds even bad with that name. That sounds
shout out Wacky
worse.
TJ's the goat. He made it in a podcast.
So Ty, we're gonna set the record straight right here. Mrs. Play doesn't hang out on anything. She has a Discord, but she's just never on it.
Yeah.
Nick is terrible at responding to messages, period.
Yep.
So I feel like this only applies to you and me. Do not message a DM to somebody who isn't old enough to have seen the prequel trilogy in theaters. I feel like that's an average bar. When did the prequels? Hold on. When did the Phantom Menace come out?
1999. And then Attack of the Clones was 2002.
All right, so I was 9 years old when the Phantom Menace came out, right? So that means I'm going to give you plus or minus 3 years there.
Okay.
Because I will stay 6 years old, because 1999, you're still
I was
old.
2.
Yeah, but really?
Yeah.
Oh, God. I'd be breaking that rule by hanging out with you. God damn.
Wow. I'm the younger man here.
Hold on. Meg wasn't born at that time?
Anyway. While Chris has a meltdown over here. Hi, we're the Wrong Button Podcast, and unlike the Acolyte, we're back for a season 2. There's the open.
Oh, that was a good one.
Thank you.
High five.
Thank you.
We talk all things nerd, most things video games, and generally anything that tickles our fancy. We have more successful episodes than the Acolyte. We might have even interviewed more than the Acolyte.
I like the Acolyte, which you'll find out soon here. This latest Star Wars project is, believe it or not, one of the only projects from Star Wars that Chris and I are on the opposite ends on. He had a lot of growing pains with it, and I feel like let's get this out of the way.
Let's get the Acolyte out of the way. I've narrowed it down, and I can now sum it up concisely in a sentence.
Okay.
Of what I think my biggest problem with that show is.
Okay.
The Acolyte tries to do things that have already been done in other Star Wars media worse.
I don't agree with you. Okay.
The motifs, all of it. Like, all right, first off, Carrie-Anne Moss just being a badass, being Trinity in a Jedi robe. Yeah, fucking top tier. Top tier, 10 out of 10. I will watch that opening repeatedly. It's great. A couple other parts of it, but it felt like, especially in talking to your significant other about, like, was it the second episode where they talk about, oh, what do you feel when you feel the Force? She's like, oh, it feels like fire and burning. He's like, yes, for some people it feels like that. And that's the only time they fucking touch on it. And your significant goes, oh yeah, no, like, did you know some people hear it as music? Some people might feel it as the breeze. Some people might smell the Force. Yeah. And I'm like,
so, okay.
So it was everything that's been explained in other media, and they just did it worse in the show.
Yes. I think a big disappointing part for me with The Acolyte is going into it, the time period it was set in. So a couple of years ago, for the people who don't read a lot of the new canon books for Star Wars, a couple of years ago they launched the High Republic era, which essentially was this huge coming together of all these prominent authors to create new stories in an era before the Phantom Menace, but after the Old Republic. They call it the High Republic. I'm not concrete on the years that you would put for the High Republic, but to be safe, you say 250 years before the events of the Phantom Menace. So you're in that spot. And their flagship book that they released was Light of the Jedi. And the way they depict the Jedi Order during this period in the galaxy is beautiful. It is amazing. And when you talk about how people interpret the Force, how they feel the Force, it's right. It can be fire for other people. It can be music. It can be light. It can be everything around you. It's so beautifully stated.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the Jedi Order at the peak, at the absolute pinnacle of their power. But they're not jaded assholes yet. That's the big thing. You have all of these components of the Jedi Order that weren't around by the events of the Phantom Menace. So you've like Jedi Wayseekers. They're actively trying to expand, the Order into the Outer Rim. You have all of these different, I guess you'd call them maybe outposts.
All the other Jedi temples and everything else like that.
Yeah, all around the galaxy.
Yeah, like little schools, cool.
And they're working on this incredible project. Is this massive space station in the Outer Rim called the Starlight Beacon, where they'd planned a multitude of these massive space stations, where not only would it house a Jedi temple, but you would have some of the galaxy's best doctors, scientists. They'd be huge refugee centers. It would be quite literally, it's almost akin to taming the Wild West in American, I guess, like in American history.
Okay.
But not in the bloody American way where you kick all the Indians off their land and you just
go into their head and say you want to leave.
Yeah, yeah.
That is how that show starts.
So that's the High Republic era. It's incredible because you don't have the shadow of the dark side clouding everything, and that's where I thought the Acolyte was going to be set in. And so I was super stoked going into it because I was like, whoa, hey, awesome. I've read these books. I'm really invested in the story overall. The characters in these books were really, really well done because these are, again, from authors who this isn't their first rodeo within Star Wars for most of them. And they've written great stories before, like Claudia Gray, E.K. Johnston, a few others. So it was disappointing for me off the bat to find out that we're at the tail end of the High Republic era, where the Jedi are already on their back foot, on their decline into what they are in the Phantom Menace, which are just puppets of the Senate.
Yeah, they are Team America.
Yeah, they're
World
political
Police.
lapdogs. Yeah, and it's seeing that sort of stuff. I was like, oh, that blows.
Because you guys had talked about the High Republic, and everyone was like High Republic, and then it's because when I read it and when I said it, I was like, oh, like 150 years before the events of the trilogies, and I was like, we're not that far away.
No.
And that also kind of set me up. We're gonna kind of jump around to this. Like my big issues were, like, I liked a lot of like the teaching moments where they were like trying to explain master and student relationships and different ways to teach, which to me really didn't get good till the last 2-3 episodes.
Yeah,
because like we got there, it's like we have a witch coven. They're like Night Sisters. It's like no, we're not. And I'm like, oh cool,
we're something else, which is actually never explicitly stated. Yeah, but we're something else.
What do you guys do? Stuff.
And things. Don't forget and things.
And then it was like, and then of course, Mom being like, "Is this what you want? Okay, that's fine. They're Jedi. They're good guys." And it's like, there were so many things where I'm like, how the fuck does the kid know what the Jedi are? You have them sequestered in this thing, which either means the Jedi are like forcing their way into their heads somehow, or yeah, there were enough plot holes in the beginning that I was just like, it kind of like kicked me off of it. And then there was a lot of just like, it's not about good and evil. It's about power and who has access to it. I don't understand. You wouldn't. She's old enough to make her own decisions. It's like, okay, so she doesn't understand. But sure, go join this religious military cult. It's fine. You're fine. You'll be fine. And that's where I started to get like that. And I think a lot of people were recirculating old clips of George Lucas, which I think haven't aged well.
No.
Because he goes, the light side and the dark side. The light side is love. It's God. It's love. And it's this. It's like the dark side is selfish. That's the only two ways. It's the cheap, quick way out. And I'm like, you just spoke in an absolute, which means you're a Sith because you're like, there's only two ways. But it's like, no, they're Wiccan. They just like, I'm Wiccan. They just believe something a little bit different. It's like, we've seen what happens when you persecute people religiously. It doesn't go well.
No.
And
no, it doesn't.
And so all those things were like circulating of George, and I'm just like, I'm watching it, I'm like, okay, that's okay. And then Freddie Prinze Jr. gets on his high horse of like, if you knew Greek mythology like George does, I'm like, dude, yeah.
Freddie Prinze needs to shut up sometime. Listen, I love Freddie Prinze Jr. so much.
I like Kanan. This is a great character.
Great character too, but not. I'm just talking like Freddie Prinze in some of his acting roles, the live action Scooby Doo movies.
Who was he?
He was Fred.
He was Fred? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever gotten all the way through them, so that's why I'm asking.
Really?
Yeah.
Cult classics.
Yeah, they would be. The second one has Scrappy Doo as the villain, doesn't it? Or is that the first one? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
But there's, oh goodness, and I'm blanking on who played Daphne. But there's an old clip I saw it just the other day where it's like the actress who plays Daphne is explaining all the awesome things they did with the live action Scooby-Doo movies. It's like it's more than you're bringing these characters to life in different ways, and she's explaining it so articulately and beautiful. And then it cuts to Freddie Prinze. He's like, "Well, there's a talking dog. That's pretty much the whole point." I'm like, Freddie Prinze, shut up, man.
Yeah, don't. Yeah, and so to me, those came around, and oh no, did we lose you guys? Hang on.
You lost the viewers?
We're still here, guys. We're still here.
Oh, good. They can't see me anymore?
They can't see us. I noticed that we froze. We're still live. Go ahead, you keep talking.
Did we freeze in a pretty position? Do I look pretty at least?
We're looking longingly to each other's eyes.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, but we're still here.
It wouldn't be a wrong button stream without a technical difficulty. At least we didn't leave a Star Wars cup in one of the, or a Starbucks cup in one of the biggest episodes of TV ever. Like somebody. Game of Thrones.
Wasn't that Jon Snow?
No, I think it was Daenerys. I think it was Emilia Clarke's Starbucks cup. And truthfully, I didn't notice it the first time around when I watched it, and then I saw Twitter blowing up about it. But love a good Game of Thrones sidebar in our Star Wars podcast.
Camera start. And we're gonna restart this, guys.
Future Chris has way too much Paper Mario to edit.
I've got a lot of. Yeah, tonight's gonna be streaming. Tomorrow morning's gonna be like editing this.
Adding the counter to how many times I mess up jumps.
That'll be tomorrow afternoon.
Please God, don't. It's bad.
It is. It's okay. I've got to edit because I'm gonna turn around. I'm gonna edit Warhammer. Warhammer's gonna replace Mr. and Mrs. Play for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so that doesn't matter. Anyway, we're back. We're live. You can see us. I'm not gonna touch that part. We're just gonna leave that alone.
Don't touch that dial.
You're still here.
Man, yeah. Don't touch that dial. What year is this? Who am I?
I don't even know what that's from anymore.
Radio?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't listen to the radio. That's my problem. I listen to a lot of audiobooks.
Radio when TVs used to have dials?
You weren't even alive when
was.
TV had it.
I was.
Okay, you were alive when it. That's fine.
Yep.
You've already crossed. Okay, so we were talking about the bad takes of Freddie Prinze and a lot of that circulating, and I like I said, my biggest issue was like, hey, when they're doing the teaching moments, if you want a really good teaching in Star Wars, like my favorite teaching in Star Wars, and you want to see good teaching versus bad teaching, manipulative teaching versus like a proper education, play Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2. When everything comes out, and I really don't want to spoil those because if you haven't played it, it's a BioWare game. It's all about talking to people and the relationships that you form. And when it starts to come out, because you get to see the apprentice, the old apprentice, and then you get to see like their differing philosophies based on conversations you've had and what you've taken away from that master that trained you both. It's great. And we got this, and there were points where, especially later on, where Soul kept on trying to like console Carrie Ann Moss's Padawan, and she's like, "I don't tell him things to make him feel better. We're here to teach him. That's what this is about." And I was like, "Oh, that's really good." But we only got a couple segments of that before it had to sprint to tell us like what happened.
And that's where we're going to get into where you and I agree on there being a massive pacing issue in Star Wars. We were talking about this a little bit before we went live, and Chris brought it up, saying that Star Wars has a massive pacing issue. And yeah, they do. When you start off shows, and this was especially true for when shows were actively premiering on cable networks, which we might go back to. Who knows? Though that whole universe is crazy right now. But you needed to be able to draw people in with your story within your first episode.
Oh yeah.
Or two max, or else nobody's going to return for it, If you have a botched opening, it's hard to recover from unless you have a very patient network or a very patient production company, whoever your overlord is, whoever's funding this project.
Oh yeah, pilots, like you look at like The Office and things like that got canned.
Yeah.
And had to get brought back because they were like, hey, people don't like this, and you had to learn from it.
Yeah.
In order to make it better. And I think that's just a problem of the streaming services that we're at right now, is that.
And we've seen this in Star Wars before too. Take the Clone Wars, Star Wars: The Clone Wars, just a movie. Oh God,
first two seasons are not good.
Nah, I wouldn't say the whole seasons themselves, but the early episodes of Star Wars: The Clone Wars weren't the greatest.
The first episode being one of my favorite episodes of the entire series,
with Yoda and the clones.
And the clones, just talking about that.
Also, I hate when we say Star Wars has a pacing problem, and then you look at Star Wars: The Clone Wars, where it's not in
chronological order
at all.
Because it felt like it was going to be an anthology, and it wasn't.
Yeah, they threw that out the window, I think, halfway through.
Yeah.
Once
they started getting to like, hey, we're going to tell a cool, succinct story, point A, point B, point C, and then it's like, okay, that story's over. We're still in the Clone Wars. It's still another story.
Yeah.
Then it was good.
Yeah, it hit it became the show that everybody loves.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, the Star Wars pacing problem is not a new thing, really. This is just, I guess, this is how it's always been for since the launch of.
Since episode 4, goddamn, like it all has terrible pacing.
Have we ever had good Star Wars pacing?
No. You're telling a space opera without music. It has a musical score, but no one's singing. There's no singing, and it like when you look at how quickly things happen, like episode 4. Let's think about this. Luke is on his planet,
Yeah.
right? Hey, go run and pick up or like buy these droids.
Yeah.
Or droids get attacked on a ship. They meet the kid who's going to be the hero. The kid the next day, like drives, goes to run some errands, gets attacked, woken up by a space wizard, comes home to his family dead. There's nothing for me here now. I don't even fucking grieve. I don't care. I just don't want to be here. Finds the rogue, gets trapped on a space station, joins an army, blows up a Death Star. Like in 2 hours, that is the sprint that happens.
It's not so much of a sprint, though.
It's not a sprint that The Rise of Skywalker is, but it's still a goddamn sprint.
I will say the original trilogy is the least of the pacing issues.
Oh yeah, no, it is, but that's because time doesn't exist in Star Wars.
I don't know if I could call episode 3 having any really big pacing issues, though. That was just baller.
I think episode 3 gets confusing with the final season of Clone Wars.
Yeah, but you got to look at episode 3 on its own.
Oh yeah, no, I agree.
So,
but there are a couple things I wish for that would have done, but I don't really have a problem with the movies so much.
yeah.
But when it comes to storytelling and I think the first season of The Mandalorian had no pacing issues. But the other thing is, I think they went in with what I enjoyed about The Mandalorian. So, all right, my biggest complaint was the Acolyte told things that have already been told in Star Wars, i.e., just go play Knights of the Old Republic. I will still tell you guys, 1, it's a great BioWare game. 2, get it on your PC, play it on PC, get the mods that fix it, get the mods that complete the second game.
Mm-hmm.
We will go through them on this channel at some point. Trust me, they are that good. I think everyone should play them, especially if you're a Star Wars fan.
Like how you add that at the end.
Yeah, especially if you're an RPG fan. If you're a BioWare fan, if you like Mass Effect, go play Knights of the Republic. But when I was saying that is, I watched The Mandalorian, and The Mandalorian wasn't about Mandalorian culture. That was told around it, but it was a Western. Guy goes into a town has a problem, guy solves the problem. It is the good, the bad, the ugly trilogy.
Yeah.
The Man with No Name. It is that just repeated a couple times. And then they they flush out an overarching story, and you go, oh, okay, there is a bigger bad guy out here, but that gets established. Whereas when I saw the Acolyte, I was like, okay, Acolyte, teaching. Okay, there's no teaching. Okay, murder mystery, who done it? Fuck that. Nope, that's out the window too. Okay, it's this. And it felt like there were like 4 things it was in the beginning.
Yeah.
And then it so quickly went away. And I was like, I don't... It wasn't till the end that I was like, here's the teaching. And then I am sorry. I know that you're excited to see Darth Plagueis. I think we need setup to tell us how Return of the Jedi gets to The Force Awakens. I don't think we need as much setup for Palpatine getting to power.
Okay. You're wrong.
Okay.
You're wrong. You should feel bad.
Okay.
I feel like Dr. Phil right now. You're wrong. You're ugly. I hate you. Give me $200.
You don't know what you don't know.
That's a Dr. Phil soundbite. Anyway, no. So there has long been Darth Plagueis. Just, it's like the carrot on a stick. That's Darth Plagueis to me, because when Disney took over back in, what was that? That was 2012, right? That the sale of LucasArts went down to Disney, 2012, pretty sure it was. Anyway, when that happened, They threw out all the legend stuff, which I mean they had to at that point. And all you got was this one soundbite from good old Palps at near the start of Revenge of the Sith, saying, "You ever hear the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise?" Yes, thought not. It's not a tale the Jedi would tell you. Yeah, because the Jedi didn't freaking know it. Anyway, Sidious is such a good. He's an amazing villain. He's a conniving villain. I hate him. If you hate a villain, he's great because you have to have that burning rage against a villain for you to really appreciate, I guess, like the villainy of it.
Yeah. And I honestly, I only think I hate prequel Emperor. I don't even hate the Emperor and like in the original trilogy.
No, because he's just
not there.
Yeah, he's just
and I hate him in the sequel trilogy.
Well, yeah. Let's not get into the sequels here. So he got to that point. He got to that power, and there's this little backstory of what he did to his master. But at this point, the Sith have been hiding for 1,000 years.
What are you talking about? There's one that was just like came out like 150
anyway.
years.
They'd been hiding for a millennia, right? They'd been hiding out, but it was Sidious and Plagueis who plotted their grand plan to return to power to defeat the Jedi. Plagueis is a massive part of that, and he, which is crazy to me. Like he's alive, and well in the Phantom Menace, in the early parts of the Phantom Menace. Like he gets murdered during the course of that movie. Believe it or not.
I read the book when I was younger, but I don't think it was in the original book.
So how it goes is that, which is kind of, I'll give you like the abridged version here real quick. Whenever Valorum gets that vote of no confidence, and then they end up giving Palps the Supreme Chancellor role, that night Palps and Plagueis are celebrating because that's a massive step for their plan. Everything's starting to fall into place. That's when Palps gets Plagueis so drunk, and he's like, I guess he's like spiking his drinks and getting him to that inebriated state, and then kills him. Like that happened that night. Obviously, it's not shown in the Phantom Menace, but I mean, that's where that occurs. So Plagueis is the other massive missing half of the Sith, So forget you, and I'm not alone. Everybody wants to see Plagueis.
I don't have a problem seeing Plagueis. I have a problem
with the fact that he's like hiding in a cave.
No, I don't have a problem with him hiding in a cave. Like if he's a Sith and
he's a Sith Mune though.
I don't know what that means.
Like the Mune, like the banking clan.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah. Like that's a species. It's just
so I don't even have a problem with that. Like I don't have a problem if it's like he like went to go live in a cave because he's like, I've only known luxury and I need to be oh my god, I need Star Wars Obama to get Plagueis out of a cave. Oh my god. One, he was captured in his home. Two, that's a really good joke, great fool. So this show felt like, because it was the Acolyte and it was all about teaching.
Yeah.
And them being like, the stinger was Plagueis. That to me was, hey, when writing the show, we knew it wasn't good, so we'll give you the stinger that you want, so that way we can throw away all the beginning of it and none of that matters.
Well, that goes into the pacing issue.
Yeah. But this, it doesn't even feel like pacing issue. This feels like if he would have been like shown for the first time in season 2 or 3 of like, well, who taught you? Like, you know, who taught you, like, blah 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 blah. Then and it went into that, but it also doesn't feel that way.
Yeah.
And two, I kind of like the idea that when Palpatine was telling that to say Anakin, that it was just some Sith holocron and we don't know if it's true or not. I'd have been fine with that as well. If it was just like, nope, I just fucking lied to you. Because I sent you the thing like the Revenge of the Sith, but Anakin is smart.
Oh,
and he goes,
yeah.
Source. And he's just like, show me the source on that. Like, it seems like an oddly specific tale to seduce the Jedi.
There's a reason Anakin quite literally says in Revenge of the Sith, I am a slow learner. Yeah, buddy.
Yeah. Source.
This Sith this Sith master's been giving you I want you eyes since you were an 8-year-old boy. You were most likely created by this man.
Which just brings us back to the top of the podcast. Hey, if someone is sending you DMs on Discord, Twitter, or whisper messages in Twitch, and you're doing it from the official account of the wrong button, don't reply. As Meg, who also says she might not have been born, DMs me to go, hey, by the way, your stream might be down. I'm just like, why are you making me break my own rule?
But so getting back to the Acolyte, and I'm gonna lightning round this because I'd like to spend some time on what we're expecting for this future of Star Wars. For love of God, maybe a show without pacing issues. I didn't like a lot of the costume design.
Okay, thank you.
It felt clunky. When you look at all the amazing artwork of like the High Republic,
it felt like costumes.
Yeah, it felt like costumes, which that sucks.
Oh, can I have one other actual really major issue I have with that? Do you remember when they walked into the forest and there were all the beetles on the damn trees?
Yeah.
And no one could apparently sense them?
I know.
But, like, Anakin turns off the cameras in Padme's room because she doesn't want him watching her change.
Yeah.
And he's like, don't worry, I can sense that. And 2 tiny little parasite things come out, and they're like, no, I sense it too, bro.
Yeah.
And she's a changeling. I figured all that out on the fly, and this is the height of the Jedi, and they can't do that?
Yeah.
Also, Jeki's death. Dear God. That entire fight, I will still say, I told Nicole exactly how it was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
It was beautiful. I'm so glad it was a butchery, and I'm so glad at how, like, violent and visceral it was to, like, kind of show that the Jedi are like, oh, someone became one with the Force to justify killing them. But then it's like you're watching this brutal murder of all the friends.
Yeah, the one thing I'm not gonna ever talk badly with the Acolyte on, their fight scenes were dope. Oh, they were so dope. That's a lot of what was used with like the prequels back in the day. It's like, oh, a lot of the storytelling and this, you know, the scripts were George's writing of the dialogue.
Who talks like this, George?
But then you get to the lightsaber fights and you're just losing your mind. And then you have Darth Maul who shows up with his double-bladed lightsabers, like the one blade and the second one, and you're just like,
you know what? We're gonna talk about that for a second too. Everyone loses their shit about the double-bladed lightsaber. Then Meg will answer your question. Everyone loses their shit about the double-bladed lightsaber. Do you realize how many times he would have cut his goddamn arm off? But Kylo Ren comes out with the one that has the crossguard, and everyone's like, "That's the dumbest thing ever." What is dumber than a double? Because you're literally holding.
And it's not dumb. It's just basically a sword. Like I like the crossguards on the lightsaber look cool.
I think they are. Meg does have a question. She asks, as someone who hasn't really engaged with the Star Wars saga beyond the,
what's your question, viewer?
What are some differences that you'd like to see in the costume and storytelling that would make it feel more authentic? Honestly, the costuming from the costume
design.
The costume design, but then just how it fits with the rest of the world. So
is costuming a word? Okay. Anyway,
yeah,
sorry. Go ahead.
It's costuming. Like you're. So if you watch, for instance, So I'm gonna go back and just look up all the armor that was done in The Mandalorian.
Mm-hmm.
None of it feels like a lot of the stuff here, like when they're wearing their robes all like puff out super far, and it's this gold color that like it kind of comes off as like a mustard that they're
Yeah,
wearing.
because it's not a good gold.
It's not a good gold, and it comes off as poofy. Whereas when you watch like just watching like Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan in episode 1 when they're wearing theirs, it fits better. It doesn't look like you're wearing 8,000 layers, but it's essentially the exact same outfit. Or I even like go look at Sabine Wren from the cartoon from Rebels, and then go look at her in Ahsoka, and I go, this now looks like a character that could belong in our world, but the color and the vibrancy is still there, even though it's shot in a muted tone. A lot of the stuff, like it was the color saturation, it was what they were wearing, and it just, for a lot of the people, like the costumes just didn't. They felt like, oh, you're wearing a costume for a Star Wars celebration.
Yeah, and I was gonna say actually all of Ahsoka, the costume design, everything, how everybody looks, you nailed it with Sabine. They did a great job in Ahsoka.
Go watch Ahsoka just enter the temple.
Yeah. They did a great job in Andor too, but it was easier in Andor because you're dealing with like the everyday Star Wars. I get like
the monotony of the everyday.
Yeah.
So
beautifully shot. Can't get over Andor.
Talking about pacing issues, I know a lot of people say Andor has pacing issues.
It starts slow. That's
it's
not
a slow burn. It's not a pacing issue.
Yeah, that's not a pacing issue at all.
So storytelling, I want them to pick a theme and go with it. So Andor it's a heist movie. It's a heist show. The entire show is about a heist that eventually gets botched and someone goes to jail, and then it becomes a jailbreak show. It's just done in the Star Wars universe. So you tell a story that somebody's known, you're just telling it in Star Wars. In Ahsoka, you're telling this mystery and this regret of like the failed teacher and the failings of the student, and you're telling it about these two people that like belong together, and it's like the that did the failed student teacher relationship so well.
It did.
I'm a little mad that Sabine Wren's just a Jedi, but whatever.
Yeah, that's it's something we're gonna have to live with, and I'm assuming I put my faith in Dave Filoni there. So we're gonna get an Ahsoka season 2. It's gonna be built on. I'm excited to see what they do with it. So, and I'm with you. Like, stick to something.
Yes.
What you don't want to do, and the Acolyte and the Book of Boba Fett are the two guilty parties here, is that the Acolyte was all over the place. You're right. It didn't do one thing well. It did many things not great. And the Book of Boba Fett,
that was
it had an overarching story, because it's showing Boba Fett, this former villain, turning into not exactly a good guy, but he is finding, I guess, the meaning and value of having
a better crime lord.
Well, yeah, well, not just like he's finding the value of having, I wouldn't say like a family, so to say, but a clan.
Yeah.
Because he's been alone. He lost his father when he was young. He never really belonged to the Mandalorians because he's a clone. He didn't belong to the clones. He was a badass bounty hunter, but that was it. He was on his own. He was on his own.
Yes.
There's a very, very good PS2 game about Boba Fett that will back up what I'm saying.
There's also like a really good scene in Star Wars Jedi Survivor that just shows how ruthless Boba Fett is.
Yeah. And so, but what tanked the Book of Boba Fett was the king of pacing issues, because you're trying to tell, they split up a flashback of what happened to Boba Fett between episode 6 when he goes into the Sarlacc pit and when he shows up in The Mandalorian, which was so dope, by the way. Them introducing Boba Fett in The Mandalorian was such a cool, like, season 2 moment. Was that season 2 or was that season 1? No, it was season 2.
It was season 2.
But they had such bad cuts, because you would get maybe 10 or 15 minutes of what Boba Fett was doing while he was having his back to dreams per episode, but then you'd go back to present day and I guess what it means, and it wasn't cut well.
No.
So those are pacing issues. If you were to
talk about someone with a back to problem, you thought I had a back to problem. That man
a Republic Commando playthrough, yeah. the Book of Boba Fett would have played a lot better had you just gotten all the flashbacks taken care of within like the first episode or the first 2 episodes, and then progress with the story.
Yes.
So, the Acolyte put everything together at the very end, but unfortunately for them, with a community, and I use that term loosely with Star Wars fans, with how Star Wars fans are and always have been, if something doesn't do well and it doesn't reach a turning point quick enough, it's going to get canned. Especially now. I mean,
I think the only ones that don't, especially, were like watching Star Wars Rebels,
the animated series, because
it was a kid show for the first season, and then
Yeah.
the fans started watching it, going like, "Oh God, the second season goes kind of ham."
yeah. At the season finale of episode, I get goosebumps just even mentioning it.
Is that the one where he builds his lightsaber and like raises it up at the end?
Ahsoka coming back with on Malachor, the fight with Darth Vader.
Oh, that yeah. Oh,
I'm getting goosebumps just
no,
thinking about it. Yeah,
my hair just raised.
It's some of the best Star Wars to ever Star Wars.
I think. Oh God, yeah. So actually, speaking of best Star Wars stuff, Meg's just gonna derail the entire thing. What our thoughts were on Kenobi. We do have an entire podcast with a spoiler cast. It's episode 28. So it's in 2000. I think it's like the debut one with you, actually. Yeah, I think it's the debut episode with you, talking about that one. I'm gonna go back and look, but it's episode 28. Oh no, we did a Star Wars gatekeeping.
Did we not do anything for Andor? I thought we did.
I don't know if we did. I'm going up right now because I'm like looking through a lot of it, going like all the way up. But I don't think we did for that one. That being said, generally speaking, really liked Kenobi. I think my biggest issue with Kenobi was the Super Force Super Saiyan Kenobi at the end of the final fight.
Really, that's
the only part that I was like, I don't like the fact that Kenobi's just like goes like this and like rocks start raising, and I'm like, look, I know you're Jesus, but at the same time,
literally space Jesus.
But at the same time, I'm like,
I think
it didn't make sense.
And not to go big on Kenobi here, but I think it makes sense in the context of that he cut himself off from the Force for so long that here he is finally
accepting it,
reconnecting with himself. That, I mean, this is something that he hasn't used in a hot minute. So he, because using the Force is it's a very taxing thing on you. It should be a taxing thing on you anyway.
So it's like you need to take rest days, because that's the whole point from Luke, from the end of episode 5 to the beginning of episode 6, is like he cuts himself off and comes back stronger than ever.
Yep.
But that's like a 2-year like span, not an 8-year span. So I would be like, you'd probably atrophy a little bit more than that. However, Kenobi just didn't fall out of it.
Fall out of a coconut tree.
I don't understand that reference.
It's a Kamala Harris. It's a meme for the younger generation. You're not on the TikTok.
I'm not on the TikTok. I was like, that feels oddly racist, and I don't know why. I was like, when it was like, she's been black and Indian the whole time. I don't know where Trump is getting it. I know I look like I should vote for Trump. I don't. Although I have threatened the DNC, if they keep bothering me in the middle of the day, I'm gonna vote for the other side. Stop asking for money. I give you money already. Stop asking for more.
Okay, anyway.
Sorry. My political rant.
For Kenobi, it was a limited series. I liked it. I loved it. It was good.
It was better with subtitles.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, only watch that one with subtitles, because there are a lot of things that happen in the background because you pointed out to me, and I'd been like, I rewatched the entire series with subtitles, and now subtitles do not come off my TV for anything.
Good. I'm proud of you. You've converted.
Yeah, I've totally. But I also watch a lot of anime, so now it's something like, whatever. There's always subtitles. But yeah, no, super loved Kenobi. That ending thing. Just the top one if you want to do it. How did it die?
You killed your own lightsaber.
I haven't charged in a moment.
Anyway,
because it's set up to ignite, really cool. But anyway, she was talking about her heritage. Exactly, my mother used to always say to me, I don't know what's wrong with you young people. You think you just fell out of a coconut tree. Haha, you exist in the context in which you all live and what came before you. Not relevant.
No, an actual quote. I'll show you after.
Okay. I'm it might just be something that I missed.
So
Politics makes me so sad right now. Go ahead.
yeah, so I'll say Kenobi. I think it was excused from the pacing issues in my brain. I didn't think it really had a pacing problem.
No, I didn't think it did either.
Honestly, when I talk about current Star Wars, I don't think about Kenobi. I think about I think about the series that they like Kenobi was and always was planned to be just a limited run. You know, there was a story there. They told that story. They filled in the gaps of what Obi-Wan was doing, you know, screwing around on Tatooine for 16 years or whatever it was. Got to see Qui-Gon.
Leia. Leia was the only other problem with that entire thing. Her outrunning 6 fully grown people.
Oh my god!
As a toddler.
Yeah. You won't let this die. I remember us having this discussion. Yeah. I loved the casting.
She was great casting. That was just the one part. That I was like, okay, if there's one moment I can't suspend belief for, it's her running away from 3 guys.
Yeah.
And they didn't just immediately grab her.
So, to wrap it up with the Acolyte, because we
are
going to talk about stuff that is coming for Star Wars. I'm sad that it doesn't get a second season. It doesn't get a chance to really build on things, because a lot of what was done in those last 2 episodes was really good. It doesn't excuse the fumbling and bumbling of the rest of the show. I feel like I'm usually on the Wrong Button podcast. I'm the optimist of the 2 of us, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always willing to take things with a grain of salt, but even the Acolyte kind of brought me to my breaking point a little bit. And actually, I've been a little bit disengaged with Star Wars of late, which is weird for me to say because I live and breathe Star Wars. Because just a lot of the controversy that you see surrounding the Acolyte is so much of what it was like for the prequels, for the sequels. It's just like take a breather, everybody.
Yeah.
While I'm sad to see that it won't get another season, it wasn't the show that I was expecting going in. But as we always say, like you can't have expectations predetermined as a Star Wars fan, because you're gonna get let down. You know, you can't be like, oh, it's not exactly what I was expecting. Mm-hmm. I hate this. Because that's not fair to the creators of the show. You know, that's not fair to the writers. That's not fair to the actors. Just because one notion that you had didn't come to fruition, so it sucks. Like that's the take that just grinds my gears.
Yeah.
You know what grinds my gears?
You know what really grinds my gears?
You America.
You Star Wars fans. Fuck you guys in particular. You guys in particular. Go like this. Fuck you guys.
So
salt's my apple. Am I that old now that I'm just like I'm getting these things? I'm old. That's how I feel.
So let's go in and look at some things that are coming for Star Wars, because we're in a weird spot.
So there's a new Star Wars game that just dropped.
Outlaws.
I am now more interested in it.
Mm-hmm.
My reasons for not being interested in it were it was an Ubisoft game, and
that's respectable. That's understandable.
And I don't want to play. I don't want to play Far Cry Wars. I want to play a little bit. I just want to play a little bit of that. So,
you know, Tropico's a Ubisoft game.
I do like Tropico though.
So just fun fact.
But I'm also I'm a massive Splinter Cell fan,
mm-hmm.
and Splinter Cell is published by Ubisoft, made by Red Storm.
Yeah.
I think that's my real. And the thing is, it's a stealth game. It is a stealth action game in the Star Wars universe, where it's like, hey, you get to learn some pew pew gunslinging stuff in the Old West. I'm a little bit upset about the monetization of it because they're like, do
Oh,
you want to
really?
complete? Yeah, in order to get the full game, you had to buy the special edition so you could complete Jabba the Hutt stuff and get the Hutt
Oh.
clan. Yeah,
That's I mean that's an Ubisoft
it's an
move, though.
Ubisoft
That's not
move.
a Star Wars move. That's a
I've heard that I've heard the biggest complaint, and my other big critique was it's an open world game, and it's not that I don't like open world games.
they're not top on your list though. I'm a big open world fan. But
if I didn't have to drive 2 hours to work every day and I got more than like 15 minutes to play in an average day, I would say, sure, give me an open world game. But I only have time for like 1 or 2 now a year.
mm-hmm.
So like Horizon came out, took me 2 years to beat the second Horizon because it was just a massive open world game.
Yeah.
But
what's your other critique?
My other critique is, from what I've heard, there is. Oh, I love Horizon Zero Dawn. If you haven't played Horizon, I've got a poster here. I've got a portrait over there. I've got the tall neck. Don't get me wrong. I love Horizon. It's just a super big game,
mm-hmm.
and I don't always have the time for them. And then the other one is I've heard that have you played Survivor at all yet?
So, I have not personally played Fallen Order or Survivor myself. However, I've seen everything for it.
Okay.
When I know for certain, I'm not going to buy a game, which
you're not going to buy either of those games.
Mm-mm.
Really?
You're
not a character action fan, are you?
So I am.
Okay.
It's just it's hard to justify, and I know Fallen Order goes on sale regularly, and you can pick it up for cheap. But I'm invested in just the story itself.
Oh, okay.
And so with games like that, I'll go and watch all the cutscenes and stuff like that on YouTube. So
I love Fallen Order,
mm-hmm.
and I'll still play it. I play it once a year because
mm-hmm.
I can run through it, and they put the endless boss fight mode in there, so all you do is fight the bosses and get better and better and better.
Mm-hmm.
And because I think on the PS5 and PC the timing is so good, you can perfect parry, and you can have.
I wouldn't know anything about perfect parry.
You can have the fight of the movies.
Yeah.
On the PS4, no, it's miserable. But in the second one, it's here's this open world. Go find these things, climb this, and there's just no life to the world.
Mm-hmm.
I would rather have the levels of where it's some interchanging levels, and you go over here. I've said this, the first Dark Souls to me. You wander through, you fight some people, and you wander through fixed levels that get progressively bigger.
Yeah.
But they're never huge. Whereas Elden Ring, you wander around, it's there's a giant field over here. What's over in this giant field? A bonfire, nothing else. So there were areas in that game that are here's a level, and you could see a level in Outlaws and everything I've watched in it. But it's take your speeder bike across, across the Tatooine. What's on Tatooine? It's a desert. It's a giant open world. And they're it's an open world. I'm it's a giant open desert. There's a point of interest. Okay, it's Luke's house. Cool, got it. I can recreate the scene. That's it. Other than that, I'll play it. It's a stealth action. You guys will see it.
I haven't seen too much for Outlaws yet. I haven't had the time to. Looked really good though, just from a visual standpoint. So that was really cool. We are just describing Nevada. So yeah, that just came out. For 2024, there's another Star Wars show coming out December.
Wait, there's a movie coming out next Friday. Star Wars Lego Rebuild the Galaxy.
Right.
I am so excited for that.
So, okay. Lego Star Wars and Star Wars stuff, two separate boxes for me, personally. Lego Star Wars is doing everything right. Lego Star Wars
just leads into the memes. Darth Jar Jar, he is the guy.
How many times have I said on this podcast that I wanted a Star Wars What If kind of show? Or just give me the alternate reality of I don't know, Anakin making the right freaking decision for once. Maybe let me not cut off Mace Windu's hand and see the very obviously evil guy shooting lightning from his fingies.
You allow me to get married and you help me save Padme Amidala. Those are oddly specific, but sure.
Say less.
Got it.
Yeah, but like stuff, or like what if Qui-Gon had lived? Like those kind of what if scenarios. Like that's what I've always wanted out of Star
What
Wars.
if he just left the Order and like settled down with his hot Senator wife?
roll the title screen?
Roll the title screen. Can they take away your powers?
Yeah.
I love that movie so. I love that meme.
So, yeah, that's exciting. Lego Star Wars is awesome.
You guys might get a surprise podcast for that. I don't know yet.
For I do want to play more Skywalker Saga for Extra Life this year. By the way,
Well, you can do that. Yeah.
No, it's not. We can. We are.
So
I don't know if you've already decided. Like I've decided this.
I want to plan some things better for Extra Life.
Yeah.
Because I'd like us to go the full 24 hours instead of tapping out.
But we did that. The mistake was the McDonald's that we ate.
Probably. I also think like if it was like, hey, if somebody could like play a little bit, like if you were at home, you're like, I'm gonna do this. I'm like, I'm just gonna take a nap, and then it's like, okay, you take a nap, and then we'll meet up together. Yeah, shift work, and we figured out like I'd like to do stuff together.
Yeah, I mean we could plan, we could schedule it all out too.
Yeah, so we're not like passing out on the floor.
Yeah, we were. By the end of Extra Life, we were.
Yeah, I was feeling it.
We were feeling it.
Misplay is gonna tap out, and I know how it's gonna go. I'll get that stuff up soon. Anyway.
So yeah, but outside of Lego Star Wars, which is carrying the franchise at the moment, Skeleton Crew trailer dropped. What was that? Almost a month ago now at Disney's. What do they call their not con, but like their annual video, like their. I guess it is a con. Disney like.
It wasn't Star Wars Celebration. It was like I thought it was a.
It was a conglomerate.
It was Comic-Con.
No, it wasn't Comic-Con. Disney did their own.
Oh, they did their own streaming thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because they announced all the Pixar stuff coming up and
oh, okay. DisneyCon, I don't know.
I think they call it like D24 or whatever. Name of it doesn't matter. What matters is that the D23. Why is it 23 in 2024? Anyway,
23andMe.
Boo. That sucked. Really? That was the joke that you came up with?
I mean, it could have been like my dad finding out that he was related to our country's third president.
I mean,
my stepdad's black. It was a Thomas Jefferson joke. It was a Key and Peele joke. It's before your time.
Key and Peele's not before my time. Anyway. Okay. What we got from D23 was a Skeleton Crew trailer, which is a project which
I was expecting the Alien movie in space.
Yeah, it kind of when Skeleton Crew was announced, it was announced like Bad Batch was. Everybody was like, "Oh, we're getting a show for that." Okay, that's how I feel about Skeleton Crew. I still feel that way. After watching the trailer, it's the Goonies in space.
Yeah, maybe it'll be good.
Maybe I don't know.
Maybe it'll be Stranger Things and the Goonies in space, and it'll be okay. There's an actual skeleton on the ship. I'm excited for like.
It's a little weird seeing like suburban Star Wars, though. You know what I'm saying?
It is, but I'm also like, it has to exist. Like there has to be suburbia Star Wars. There has to be.
But like that though.
But like Naboo's like prime. Like if you're not out here with the Gungans and you're not directly in the city or a farmer, like there's got to be.
Is that why though? It's a galaxy far, far away. It doesn't have to have suburbia.
Okay, but it's also not the grim, dark future of the 41st millennium where all we know is war.
Yeah,
and there are 10 billion human worlds. I'm excited that it looks like some kids find a spaceship and we get to the whole Han Solo thing where it's like I've been from one end of the galaxy to the other and seen a lot of weird things. Yeah. And there's nothing that'll make me think that some hokey religion or some all-knowing force connects it all. I'm excited for like them to be like, oh my god, you're a Jedi. Like I'm like, okay, cool. We just have a random Jedi here. And it's like, but he's out being a pirate. Like, I liked Pirates of the Caribbean. It's a great movie. Sure, we have kids now in space.
It's very intentional that a lot of the Star Wars projects that have come out in the years following the sequel trilogy is to explain the massive gaps of the sequel trilogy. And for me, this almost kind of feels like it's trying to explain Kid with the Broomstick at the end of The Last Jedi. And, you know, like the kids that are sweeping up the, what are those? Yeah, it is in Canto Bight, the equivalent of forced labor cleaning up after horses. So it almost kind of feels like it's not exactly following up on that, but it's in that same vein, you know.
Fathiers. Father Fathier. God, it's literally like fathiers. Feathiers. They're like horses, but featherier.
Yeah.
Oh God, that's terrible. Why'd I look
that.
it up? We should have just said the Canto Bight horses.
The Canto Bight horses. Yep. That's what they are.
That's what they are now.
So yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic.
It is nothing what I thought it was, because I was like, oh, it's gonna be a horror movie.
Mhm.
Like, I'm expecting Lost in Space. But I'm thinking the Lost in Space movie that came out when I was a kid. That's still before your time. That was like '96.
Quite literally a year before my time. Yes.
Yeah, and
my time had not begun.
If you guys like Matt LeBlanc, it's a great breakout role for him as an action star. Anyway, I'm expecting like, oh, the kids, they get on a ship, they hit the button, and they just the ship, boop, and now they're here, and it's like maybe they enter the Bermuda Triangle and Star Wars. I'm like, okay, sure, just give me something weird and zany, and
yeah, and historically, like kids arcs or stories in Star Wars do pretty well. Like I'm thinking just off the top of my head, like the Padawans in the Clone Wars, my little Thorian Biff, and Gunky and his little wooden lightsaber. Those kids, I miss those kids. I think about them. Where are the rest of them?
I would be remiss to say that Mrs. Play was upset that Kalnaka just had a normal lightsaber and it had no wood.
Yeah,
she was a little upset.
I was also upset.
She's like, oh, he's just like, why isn't it made of wood? I'm like, because that's not how it works. But it worked for the other Wookiee. Like, you can't put all Wookiees together. Didn't you say that Wookiee Jedi are really rare? So wouldn't they kind of be? Like your logic's not wrong. But
it's not wrong.
Stop doing it.
So yeah, Skeleton Crew. Like I was a little more excited for Bad Batch when the trailers started dropping for it, because we were in the era of directly after the start of the Empire, the fall of the Republic, because a lot of that hadn't been really explored at that time. And Bad Batch, I miss it. Oh, it's such a great show.
I don't want to watch the second season.
What?
I don't want to watch the second season. I don't want to watch it again. I'll watch the first season and the third season. I don't want to watch the second season again.
Watch out who gets character development, folks. That's all you have to know.
Oh, you're likable now.
Nope.
Oh.
So 2025, which is right around the corner. It's 2025 in three months, ladies and gentlemen. Let that sink in.
Yeah.
You know what we're getting in 2025? I don't know.
Andor season 2.
Yes. Which
the Mando movie.
Hold on.
Okay.
We're not there yet. We got a sequence of events.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm so excited for Andor season 2. I loved Andor so much. I find myself thinking about my life during Andor releasing, where every Wednesday was just a very sacred day of the week. It's releasing during the fall. You know, the weather was getting colder. Go home, cook a nice dinner, get some food, watch Andor. I'm excited for that. I don't know when it's going to premiere. Maybe you have more information. I don't know if they've pinned down like an exact month or so.
Oh no, it just says Andor. I think it's in production now though.
Yeah, but there's only going to be 2 seasons, right, of Andor, or is there going to be a third and a fourth? I don't think there's going to be 3 and 4. I can't remember how many got picked up for afterward.
So I think it was originally supposed to be Andor, Andor 2, Rogue Squadron.
Yeah, that's not happening anymore though.
Rogue Squadron, and then it was supposed to be then it would have been
Lando?
nope. What's the movie? The movie with the Andor movie. It's already happened.
Oh,
Rogue One.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's supposed to be Rogue Squadron, Rogue One.
Mm-hmm.
And it was going to cut there, and then
Oh, that makes sense.
And then the sequel series was
I was thinking
Republic Commando or Republic Rangers, something like that.
Yeah, I was thinking Rangers of the Republic.
Rangers of the Republic. Yeah.
That's what I was thinking of when you said Rogue Squadron. I forgot. Yeah.
Yep. And then it was supposed to be Rangers of the Republic, but all that went down, so that's now canned.
There was so much to like for Andor. And no matter where you look at it, you were like, slow burn, amazing. There weren't pacing issues. People can shut up about that. It was a slow burn. It was intentional. And it was intentional because you have to be intentional with Star Wars. It was shot beautifully. The locations, the costumes. You take any screen grab from Andor and you can use it as your PC background. Like it's just put it on a wall, for Christ's sake. When they had like when they were pulling off the heist and the Eye of Aldani was going on as they were making their grand escape, was breathtakingly beautiful. I still think about it. And you're invested in the characters.
Mm-hmm.
So, very excited for that. What is coming after Andor Season 2? Are we getting Ahsoka next year?
Ahsoka Season 2 is on the way. I know that they're replacing Balin.
Yeah. Which, I mean, sucks. Ray Stevenson was amazing in his role. God rest his soul. Yeah, so it's not...
No. Ahsoka starts filming next year.
I thought they already started filming.
Some terrible news. The earliest we'll see the show will be winter fall of 2026. Yeah, it got pushed out because they weren't sure what they were gonna do. So they're gonna.
God, that's hard.
They're gonna finish Mando, because Mandalorian Grogu's supposed to be the end of it, and
that is that confirmed for next year too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or no, it's like Mando season 4 is gonna happen, and then it's gonna be
then it's the movie.
The Mando.
Okay. So we're getting something in the fall. I'm assuming Andor will be the spring.
I'm assuming it's gonna be the Pirate Wars, and like what that does to the
Outer Rim,
the Mandalorians, and why they're not
prevalent by the time everything kicks off for the sequel. Yeah, because there's a lot of different factions that are around post Return of the Jedi that are not there for The Force Awakens.
But and honestly, to be fair, even if we're talking, like, I know it's not canon anymore, but the end of the Old Republic takes place like right after the Mandalorian Jedi Civil War or Wars.
Yeah,
and which is soft confirmed in in Rebels.
Yeah.
Or at least their conflict was confirmed, not
because during Sabine's visit
training.
home and training and stuff like that. Yeah.
So
take me to the old freaking. It's. Can I go on a sidebar real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
So State of Star Wars is we're gonna have pacing issues. We're gonna have stuff. We really just I think you and I just need to talk about. We love Star Wars. We're excited for Star Wars to come out.
I don't like
some issues.
I don't like the interlude period that we're in though. I mean, because right now there's just not enough. Maybe the Lego Star Wars will help carry the load for a bit. But the long.
But we're not even in that long of an interlude period. Like I think Mando starts coming out in March, and the Acolyte just ended like 2 months ago.
Yeah, if we're getting in terms of like major Star Wars, I don't want to say timeline, but I guess timeline's the word for it. Andor in next spring is the next major project within that vein. And then after that, you have to wait for Mando, which until we get a date is just in the future. The thing that really boned not only Star Wars, but I guess like a lot of other things was the strikes, the writer strikes last year. Was that last year? They end that at the.
Oh, it was like last year, 2 years ago.
Yeah,
but I mean, I think it is also now Dave Filoni is at the. I think whoever the guy is that came back, it has said, look, Dave, like Kathleen Kennedy, you are no longer allowed to be a creative director.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think that's part of the problem too. Is like
Kathleen Kennedy, you're part of this company, but we do not grant you the rank of content creator.
A creative director. We grant you the rank of executive. We do not grant you the rank of creative director.
Take a seat. Young Kennedy. Not so young Kennedy.
But I think like that is part of and that was part of the issue that everyone said with the sequel trilogy is like we want to have 3 different directors come in and do it, and it's like no, because now
you're dumb.
Yeah, like have a vision, have someone carry it out. If they're like I don't want to fucking do this anymore, let them walk away.
Yeah, and that's the issue with so many Star Wars projects now. Be deliberate. Tell the story. Don't be something you're not. Be yourself.
That's why we have Grogu for like 4 more seasons instead of he was supposed to go away at the end of season 1 or season 2.
Season 2.
Yeah, he was just supposed to be gone.
Then he came back and it was kind of weird.
Honestly, I was okay with him like going to check up on the kid and give him like the armor and stuff. I was okay with that. I was like, oh, that's cool. Like he misses the kid. All the fan art of like Mandalorian Jedi Grogu, I kind of want to see that. Like if the Mando Grogu movie
give him the armor and the lightsaber. I'm begging
the armor and the lightsaber.
I'm begging you.
Oh my god, I'd love that.
Yeah,
and just have him be like oh, what Jedi are you? I'm the Jedi Mandalore. All right, fuck it, cool. You look like Yoda, but okay, Mandalore. So I have a quick Star Wars question for you.
Yeah.
Do you think when he gets his helmet, because he can speak the Creed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think
he can babble the Creed?
Do you think they give him the ears and they make him hollow, or do you think the helmet
think about
sits
this a lot
around
too? I don't. His ears have got to be unprotected. I'm sorry, it would look way goofy to have a whole Beskar ass helmet for his ears too.
Well, I mean, come on, they have biker helmet with cat ears now? Like, why can't they give him Grogu ears?
I just don't.
Although I have to say,
cool.
with the jetpack, he'd have to fly like this, and the second he goes like this, it turns one way or turns the other way, slows him down.
Air brakes.
Turn your head, stops.
So that's where we're at. It's a weird time. I don't know if I have been this. I don't want to say dejected. It's not dejected, but this just kind of disengaged. Like I said earlier, I haven't been this disengaged with Star Wars in. I don't know. Actually, I don't know if I've ever been this disengaged with Star Wars, which is weird for me to say. But with that being said, I'm just waiting for the projects that I need continuation on. So I need more Ahsoka. I need more Andor. I'm waiting to see what the Mandalorian comes up with. But we're still a few years out from major Star Wars movies making a return.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Mandalorian Grogu movie, but I don't know if that's going to be...
I don't know if that's going to be a theatrical... I think it'd be a limited theatrical release.
Yeah, but I think that's going to be more of a streaming
Disney
release.
Thing, yeah. Which I'm sure, I'll take that.
And
we also did get Tales of the Empire earlier this year.
Oh, hell, yeah. That's fair.
Tales of the Empire was great. And honestly, if the Acolyte doesn't continue as a series, the Star Wars comics have been great. I read the Kylo Ren series. The Darth Vader comic series is
well, the Star Wars comics have always been fucking ballers.
Yeah,
always.
I'll take that.
Read the Star Wars comics; they're cool.
Read the Dark Knight Vader one where he's like has the Imperial shield and it's like weird alternate history. That one's good too. The Kylo Ren ones when they talk about like why his lightsaber crackles and stuff, and like him not being that was cool. One point to the Acolyte, one super good point. I like when media of any specific type gives you something, but they don't over-explain it, right? So originally, like back in the day, this is gonna go to crystals. This is why I'm talking about this. Back in the day, the Sith had synthetic crystals. That's why they were red, and then they could manipulate them and like pulse people's lightsabers, turn them off and on and off.
Yeah.
Right? New canon, no, this is all the negative energy, and you have to like bleed the crystal. And
because Ahsoka did the reverse of the same thing,
which I actually just got to that in the book.
Oh, you did?
That was so incredibly boring.
Really?
Because she defeats him, pulls out his things, and it's a stark white blade. And I was like,
I liked it.
I would have liked it if she would have had to like do something to like purify the crystals, or like had to, because like
Her entire journey in that book's not enough.
her entire journey is fine, but like what that did for the crystals, like because even Nicole was like, to get back to it, like the first time we ever saw the bleeding of a crystal was in Jedi Survivors, but we don't see it. We just see him doing the thing, and then Cal's like, "Dude, what are you doing? Oh no, this isn't good. Dude, stop!" And then he swings around with the red lightsaber, and we're like, "Oh shit, that's the bleeding of a crystal."
Yeah.
Showing it in the way they did in
the Acolyte.
In the Acolyte, where like you watch, like it almost looked like the symbiote from like Spider-Man growing around it, and it's like it looks different, and then she ignites the lightsaber and it's blue, and you see the red come up, and it's like you have to make a choice. Like it's not just like, okay, now it's a red crystal. It's like you make this choice. And I was like, oh, that's I saw it and I was like, oh, don't show it. Don't like let the mystery be there. Let it be like, oh my god, what do you think it really is? Like give people the coffee talk, give people the bar talk, give us the podcast like, oh, what do you think Bleeding Crystal is? It was still cool. I liked seeing it. I would like to not I would like them to go back to like what is the Clone Wars? Well, fucking Anakin Skywalker's a great hero. We got really cool Clone Wars in the end. But at the same time, it was like,
great hero. No war crimes involved ever. Not Anakin.
Hey, it's only war crimes if you lose. USA, that's why we're number one.
Sponsored by the U.S. government. Anyway,
I was paid a lot of money by the federal government to say this. USA.
We're sellouts here now. So I wish that Disney would stop ignoring some very obvious cash cows they could have done away with. We had this whole talk before the podcast on a completely different subject, that like watching history repeat itself. And there are very obvious routes that you can explore that are not only cool, but will make you a lot of money. Do you hear me, Mickey Mouse? A lot of money.
Make an animated Knights of the Old Republic spinoff.
Or do anything within the Old Republic era, because people will go batshit. Do you know how many people go batshit whenever they see the old cinematic trailers for Star Wars: The Old Republic, the MMO?
Oh my god, when she like crushes the tree with her hands and falls over, and we got the Jedi Sentinels, the Jedi Librarians.
I think it's just roughly a half hour of all of those like cinematic trailers put together on YouTube, and you look at the comments and everybody's just losing their goddamn mind because the Old Republic's it was whack. It's crazy.
Oh, what was the one where it's like the guy who's the cowboy, and I think that was
gunslinger. Yeah,
the gunslinger just like
and he's like twirling in the hallway. Yes.
Yeah, no, give us.
Somebody dubbed over those cinematic trailers in like 2011 when they came out, and then they put "This Is War" from I think 30 Seconds to Mars over it. And to this day, it's been on my saved videos list on YouTube.
Can you send me that one? Sounds really good.
I'll have you watch it.
Because I watch a lot of AMVs, and I'm like, oh, that could be really cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. But yeah, it's stop making the same mistakes over again. There have been a few things that Disney's done really well, but then you see the same mistakes being repeated over and over and over again. You listen. I would say listen to the fans. A lot of us are in a lot of different corners, but you talk to any Star Wars fan, they're going to agree about the pacing issues, even the most optimistic of them.
And I don't even want to say listen to the fans. I don't think that's the right message, because you listen to the fans, and that's how you get that's also how you end up with the sequel trilogy, where it's like there's really cool things. Oh, this is the big guy. But listen to the fans. The fans want it to feel like the old movie or the original movies, and then we get The Force Awakens. Everyone's like, well, it was just a retelling of the original movies.
I like The Force Awakens.
I love The Force Awakens. I mean, it's one of my top favorites.
If you're gonna do a retelling, they were deliberate with it. They did great.
Yeah,
they did.
It was all three movies sprinted together.
It was safe.
We made the jokes. Sure. And I think the other issue now is that when they did the Old Republic, and this is my biggest thing on the state of Star Wars right now, is we're gap filling timelines, right?
Yep.
So a bunch of we have a bunch of things that have to happen and aren't going to change, right? We're not going to change the trilogy movies. I know everyone's like they're going to get erased. No, they're not. They'll never get erased. They'll be there. Disney spent a lot of money on them. We're going to get a Rey follow-up movie. We're not going to get an alternate universe.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to go through it, and this is how it's going to be. But that means it all has to happen. So now it's like, okay, well, how do we justify this? It's the same thing that we get from, okay, well, how does Anakin go from being, angsty teenager to major war criminal?
Hero. War hero.
War hero.
War hero.
In the course
Say it with me. Say it with me. War hero.
War hero. War hero.
And you're right.
We got the Clone Wars.
Yeah. And so hopefully you can have faith that something like that can happen again to fill in the gaps effectively, to build out the overarching story. I'll always be loyal to the prequels because that's the Star Wars I grew up with. And that's how it is for a lot of kids who grow up today. Like, you'll have those kids who love the sequels because they grew, like, that's the Star Wars they were introduced to.
Yeah.
That's what was coming out as they were coming of age.
And honestly,
and that's why the old heads hate everything.
And I will honestly say, like, there's nothing wrong with going back to the Old Republic. Go back so far in the past that it doesn't matter. Like,
as long as you're not blowing up key planets, you're cool. That's.
But
actually, still, technically, you could even blow up
Let's say you blow up Alderaan in the in the Old Republic. Hey, what's this planet? Oh, this planet's New Alderaan. Okay, what would happen to Alderaan? Well, it got blown up. Why? Because it did something. So why don't we just call this planet Alderaan? Okay, congrats. Alderaa's like, who are the Sith? Oh, the Sith are this ancient race, and the Sith adopt, and just you can do stuff like that, and you can have like a wild, crazy. Hey, we have a planet that just makes Star Destroyers.
Yep.
And everyone's like, oh my god, that's so dumb. That was the entire plot point of the original Knights of the Old Republic. A planet that makes super weapons for you.
Yep.
And produces people. It's a 3D printer planet.
Yep.
And that's the whole point of it.
Yeah.
And it's like you can do stuff like that, and you can have fun with it, and it can be super high stakes. Because to me, like, if you would have just changed that out and been like, they're not all like Death Star tech, it's just like, no, we don't know how they're getting all these things, and it's like, oh no, the Emperor found this. He's 3D printing ships and people and all these things. It's not
the unknown regions.
It's not the Exolites kids that are manning those things, which makes less and less sense. You could do something like that, and it would be fun.
Yeah.
Or, you know what? Fuck it. Go down the future and be like, everyone's like, oh yeah, blah, blah. Oh, I'm telling a story about this famous. I don't want to hear another Skywalker. There has to be someone else more important. All we hear is Skywalker stories. Okay, let me tell you about this other Jedi person that came out, like, after it all.
Yeah.
Like, or change the name of Jedis to Skywalkers. Oh my god, why do we always hear Skywalker stories? Well, where did Skywalker come from? And then that just goes to legends. Hey,
yeah,
we have fun. I like Star Wars a lot.
It's gonna go back to the overarching point that I wish I could beat into their head. Just be deliberate.
Yeah.
Be deliberate with what you do. It'll either be great or it'll suck. I'm tired of being this. I'm tired of it being a mess.
I would rather watch something that is deliberate and awful.
Yeah.
Than something that's like, I don't know what I want to be, and it's like at the end it was like, oh, the end was okay, but I had to struggle to get there. Like, yeah, it's kind of like I would rather go somewhere and eat terrible food but try something new, than go someplace that I know is going to be okay and eat okay food.
Yeah. And so for the state of Star Wars going forward, there's so much in limbo too. I think we could probably end it off right around there. Things have been getting canned or swept under the rug. That massive event they had years ago. What was that? Right before COVID, of all the Star Wars shows and stuff that they were coming up with. When they did like the reveal, and it was, the Acolyte, Ahsoka, the Lando Star Wars story. They had that massive event. They had all like the Rangers of the New Republic, all of it there. Because they were aiming for, I guess, like that Marvel style.
Oh, it was gonna be the MC. It was gonna be the MCU
rollout.
too.
Yeah. A lot of the stuff that was originally planned for that is now. A lot of it's not happening, and you're going to see that continue. But that's also a bad sign of things to come, because it's not just Star Wars not performing the way Disney wants it to, but it's also where we're at with streaming platforms in general, because everybody's starting to question, why do they have streaming platforms? Why not just go back to TV at this point? Why am I paying for 18 different
Yeah.
streaming platforms and stuff like that? So it's a weird it's a weird spot with the streaming industry, which you can't help. Like, that's not Star Wars' fault.
No, that's late stage capitalism.
Yeah. Let's not talk about late stage. Let me just enjoy my Star Wars in peace.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So remains to be seen what we'll get. Just give me freaking Donald Glover already as Lando again. I beg you.
Dude, I want a buddy cop hunt. I want the heist movie that was supposed to happen at the end of Solo.
I loved Solo.
I
so
did
that's
too.
just me.
I've been a Solo stan from day one,
and we're unapologetic about it too.
Yeah. I can see the 3 different movies that they wedged in there.
Yeah.
And I thought the casting was great. I like the fact that it was a lot of like smaller actors. Like, and that's one of the things Star Wars has done well, because the original trilogy was like Harrison Ford was the only person
who was big.
And his agent even said, "Hey,
well,
it'll be great for your B-roll."
They had Peter Cushing, and they had
Who's Peter Cushing?
Who played Tarkin.
Oh, okay,
yeah, and Alec Guinness, who were massive actors of
yesteryear.
Yes, at the tail end of their careers, they had that name value still.
Yeah.
So Star Wars was always good about these young unknowns, but then bringing in these really old. For example, like when they put Christopher Lee in the prequels. Yeah. So they blend it really well. It's almost, I can equate it to building like when you're in a sports franchise and you have like these young, really promising rookies that you're bringing up, but you need the older generation, the veterans that teach them.
Yeah.
That's what Star Wars always does well. So remains to be seen what we get. Mm-hmm. It's a mixed bag right now. I'm looking forward to Skeleton Crew.
Me too.
I'm really looking forward to the Lego movie.
I am, yeah.
Because that's next Friday, right?
That's next Friday.
Why are we streaming next Friday then?
Huh?
Why are we streaming?
We can now stream next Friday. We can watch the Lego movie. I don't care. Yeah. That's fine.
Okay.
I'll do.
No, we got to play. I'm excited to play Paper Mario.
I do need. I've had a sore throat.
Because of it?
Because of it.
Tea and honey, brother. Tea and honey.
We're gonna do tea and honey next week. Trust me. I've been drinking a lot of tea and honey.
I've been drinking a lot of tea.
That's why we're doing a podcast.
You're like, I can't.
If Bowser shows up, now I'm out. That's where the stream ends.
Speaking of streams, please catch us next week for Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door.
Yep, back on Friday, probably about 7 o'clock as well.
Rolling into my favorite.
Oh,
our favorite.
Oh, brother.
Yeah, our favorite.
Okay.
Part
of
the.
We'll do it next. We'll do it next week. It's fine. So that's it. If anyone wants to hang out, there's gonna be about an hour pause. About 9 o'clock, I'm gonna jump on and be streaming some Warhammer Space Marine 2 tonight, because I've been really excited for that, and I'm a bachelor for the weekend. So, ladies.
Oh God.
I'm gonna be on Warhammer. That's nice.
Ladies, don't call me. Don't text me.
I'll show you my mini. Actually, I got gun. I don't have minis. I got Gunpla. It's a whole other level of nerd.
Anyway, hey, guess what? You're all winners out there.
Keep it weird and have a fantastic rest of your day, everybody.